Welcome to CSEGuru. The next topic in two-dimensional array is how to read and write two-dimensional array values. The same topic we have discussed under one-dimensional array also. In one-dimensional array, we used to input the array elements with the help of the for loop. In one-dimensional array, since there is only one index value, we use only one for loop statement to input and output the array values. But in two-dimensional array, since there are two index values, we need to use nested for loop. So one for loop to represent the row values and another for loop to represent the column values. So to input the values to two-dimensional array, we have to use nested for loops. Okay. So first, how to read two-dimensional array values. So already in one-dimensional array, I said to input the array values, we have to combine for loop with a scanf statement. To output or write the array values, we have to use for loop combined with printf statement. Okay, same thing we are going to use here also, but the difference is in one-dimensional array, we have to use only one for loop. In two-dimensional array, we have to use nested for loops. So to read the two-dimensional array values, we have to use the for loop. So one for loop to represent the row values. That is, for I equal to 0, I less than n, this is the condition, and I plus plus. Okay, so this represents the outer for loop. So this outer for loop is used to represent row values. And inner for loop, one more we have to consider. For j equal to 0, j less than m, j plus plus. Okay, and within this for loop, we have to use the scanf statement to read the input values. That is scanf percentage d ampersand a of I g. Okay, and it should end with a semicolon. And here the variable names, any variable names we can able to use. But the logic here is we have to use nested for loop combined with scanf statement, in the sense we can input array values. And how this reading array values logically it will execute, in the sense we will check the logic also here. So here first we will consider I is equal to 0. So here n value, suppose if I have given this n value and m value, in the sense n value is 3 and m value I have given 2. Okay, the size I have mentioned here is n value is 3. That is the row size is 3 and column size is 2, in the sense how the logic will execute. We will check it. So first it will check I equal to 0. So this is the first iteration of I. Okay. And it will check the condition 0 less than 3. Yes, condition is true. Okay. Since the condition is true, it will allow the for loop to enter into the next for loop. That is the jth for loop. It will enter. And this will be considered as the first iteration. Okay. And here it will check the condition whether j equal to 0. 0 less than condition 2. Array size is 2. Okay, that is the column size here we have mentioned is 2. Yes, condition is true. And here we can input 1 values and that will be stored in a. So here I value is 0, a of 0 and j value is also 0, a of 0, 0. We can input some values. For example, I have given 2. Okay. So after execution, see here, the inner for loop condition should fail. Then only control will be transferred to the outer for loop. Okay. So until that time, the inner for loop will execute continuously. Okay. Whenever this condition fails only, control goes to outer for loop. Okay. Until that time, I value will be 0 only. Okay. So this is the first iteration of J and the second iteration of J. This is the inner for loop and the J value will get incremented to 1. Okay. So J equal to 1, 1 less than 2. Yes, condition is true. And it will allow this scanf statement to execute once. Okay, and here it will accept one input. So A of I value is 0 only. So A of 0 and J value, if you are considering, value is 1. So 0, 1. So 0, 1 position, we can input some value. For example, I have given 5. Okay, next, third iteration of J. J gets incremented to 2. Check the condition whether 2 less than 2. Condition fails. Okay. So now the inner for loop will exit here since the condition fails. Control will be transferred to outer for loop. Okay. So now since I value got 0, these many iterations of J has executed. Okay. So now control goes to outer for loop. And the second iteration of outer for loop, I gets incremented to 1. Okay, now I value is 1. Okay, so this I value is 0, previous iteration. Now I value is 1. When the condition is true, it will allow the inner for loop to execute. Control goes to inner for loop and inner for loop will execute freshly. So these iterations already end up. Okay, now the fresh iteration of J will start here. So now the first iteration of J for I equal to 1. So J equal to 0 and check the condition 0 less than 2. For I, it will check the condition 1 less than 3. Okay. So J equal to 0, 0 less than 2. Condition is true. Then it will allow the scanf statement to execute once. So the position is A of I, J. So A of I value is 1. Okay. And J value is 0. Okay. Some values we can specify. I have specified 10 here. Next up. After execution, J gets incremented. Because inner for loop condition is still true only. Okay. So second iteration of J, J gets incremented to 1. Check the condition 1 less than 2, condition true. Then execute these scanf statements once. So I value is 1 only. Now J value in current iteration is also 1. Okay. And some value we can specify. 15 I have given. Next, third iteration of J. J gets incremented to 2. Check the condition whether 2 less than 2 condition fails. Okay. So now the inner J for loop fails and control will be transferred to outer I for. Okay. And this is the third iteration of I. So in third iteration of I gets incremented to 2. And check the condition whether 2 less than 3. Yes, condition is true. Then it will allow the inner for loop to execute. And inner for loop is jth for loop. And first iteration of J in third iteration of I. Keep in mind, inner for loop will execute for every true iteration of I. I equal to 0 in the sense, condition is true in the sense, inner jth for loop will execute until its condition fails. Okay. Then condition fails in the sense, control goes to outer for loop. Outer for loop will gets incremented. Again, freshly, the inner for loop will execute one more time. Okay. Until its condition fails. Okay. Likewise, the procedure will continue. J start freshly here. J equal to 0 only. Check the condition 0 less than 2. Condition is true. Then input one value using scanf statement. I value is 2 now. A of 2 and J value is 0. Okay. So some value we can able to specify 9. Then second iteration of J. J gets incremented to 1 and check the condition 1 less than 2, condition true, and input one more value. A of I value is 2 only. J, current J value is 1. And so here I have entered some 17. Okay. And the third iteration of J value is 2. Check the condition whether 2 less than 2, condition fails. And now control will be transferred to outer I for loop again. Here I gets incremented to 3 and check the condition whether 3 less than 3 condition fails. Now the outer for loop condition also fails. Now control will not be transferred to the inner for loop because outer for loop condition fails. control will transfer outside the for loop. That is the next statement in the C code. Okay. So this is the logic how the input values we can able to give for two-dimensional array using nested for loop. And the same logic only we will use to output the two-dimensional array values. But there, instead of scanf statement, we will use printf statement, but logic is same only. This will accept the input. Scanf statement will accept the input and store it in memory location. Printf statement, it will retrieve the value from the memory location and display in the output screen. That is the difference. But logic and all, it is same only. Okay. So the statements, if we are considering here in the sense to write the two-dimensional array values, we have to use nested for loop. The same logic only for I equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus. This is the outer for loop, and inner for loop for j equal to 0, j less than m. Okay. And j plus plus. And inside this for loop, we have to use printf statement to display the output in the output screen. So printf %d, and here ampersand is not necessary. Okay. So here simply a of I j within square bracket we have to specify. Okay. Hence it should end with the semicolon. So this is the standard statement using nested for loop to display the two-dimensional array values in the output screen. And the logic if you are considering in the sense when I value equal to 0, the j for loop will execute until this condition fails. Okay. Once the condition fails in the sense, control will be transferred to outer for loop and I gets incremented. When I value is 1, this jth for loop will execute until its condition fails. So likewise, the procedure continues. The logic is same for reading and writing two-dimensional arrays using nested for loop. Only difference is scanf statement and printf statement. Scanf to read the values, printf to display the values in output screen. Okay. So this is the method to read and write two-dimensional array values.
Thank you for watching this video.